Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Cosmic Currents, a podcast about surfing, spirits, and the stories that connect us all. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Leah. I'm an empowerment mentor based out of the small surf town in northern Peru. I work with women online in my group mentoring program or in my one-on-one program, as well as an in-person retreat I host here in Lobitos called Reconnect. These are surf yoga and empowerment retreats, and there's one coming up in November. Information for all of these programs can be found on my website at leadonatello.com. So, I want to talk today about a process that's been really profound for me over this past year, but also goes back before that. But basically, over this past year, I found myself in a deep reconnection process with the essence of who I am, which is also what I'm all about now. It's become my whole personality, I guess you could say. Well, no, but it's big. But actually, since like 2022, I've been putting in this really conscious effort to realign or rearrange aspects of myself and aspects of my life that weren't resonating. And honestly, the process that planted this seed was learning to surf all of those years before. Just that this year I've been able to start to access parts of myself that I haven't been in touch with for a long time. And I mean, through no coincidence, I was able to help support 2 groups through master plant diets in the jungle this year. And I've been able to reconnect with different mentors and meet new teachers. And in a few weeks, I'll be hosting another retreat here in Lobitos. And no, I do not believe in coincidence. Everything happens. I don't say everything happens for a reason, but everything happens as it's meant to happen. And I just want to share this part of my process with you because if you are dedicating yourself to living in alignment, it can feel lonely and the process does not happen overnight. Just as like we can lose touch with ourselves, that doesn't happen overnight. That's a process that happens probably over years for most people. And reconnecting doesn't happen overnight, and there will be different phases and depths and deaths. And doesn't that sound dramatic? But I believe that it's true. And so I just want to share more of my process, what I have been working with and going through. And this is one thing that I'm currently sitting with. And I've noticed that I have been resisting or fighting when and where I could have been softening. And instead of holding compassion for myself or holding space for myself, which is what I now do for others, I told myself that I was wrong, that I wasn't like everyone else, and I needed to try and get there. And honestly, we all have our stuff, right? Like, I just was under the impression that I shouldn't have any stuff. Like, I had no excuse or no reason to have any stuff, and therefore I wasn't deserving of the process that might be required to unpack it all. I mean, my self-esteem was not the highest, clearly. And I'm also now coming to understand that, and I actually feel this very deeply as well, is that what we perceive about ourselves that makes us weak or different is actually our natural superpower. And we should never, never let anyone else or even our own minds try and convince us otherwise. There's just so much power and potential in just being who we are. And it's actually crazy that it's not easy or doesn't come natural. Like that we've gotten so far off course from just being ourselves. And I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's almost hard to believe. And it is the most liberating and empowering thing that we can do for ourselves in this lifetime. And we don't have to unpack it all just by ourselves or all at once. And, you know, if you've ever heard me speak, like if we've ever met or you've listened to this podcast, you know, a big part of my process was learning to surf. And that was a tool that helped me understand where my self-esteem was lacking. And it gave me a method to empower myself. And because that happened, I know that it was meant to be like that. I know I was meant to have that experience. And not only for my own personal growth or evolution, but also so that I could share those tools with others. If surfing had come easy to me, I would not be able to do this work, or maybe I would be doing it, but through a different method or with a different outlet. But the undeniable call or pull towards surfing is what makes me believe that I was just leaning into a plan that was already laid out for me. And I think we can get confused and disheartened thinking that just because something is calling us means that it's going to be easy, or that it's like, yeah, that it will just like fall into it and there won't be any struggle. Like it's meant to be, it shouldn't be this hard. And I don't think that's the case. I mean, I did a whole episode on the process is the point. So if you want to go learn a little bit about my opinion on that, you can go listen to that episode. And I also believe that life gives you many opportunities to experience what is meant for you, and that you will keep receiving these opportunities until you finally lean in. And leaning in or saying yes is only one part. Once you do that, then you have to show up, have faith, surrender. And you have to have the courage to want what you want, even when it seems uncertain. And over this past week, this has been a big theme for me. I've been working on this exact thing by going back and reflecting on times in my life where I've said yes to opportunities and things that I could do, instead of putting myself in the vulnerable position of admitting to the things that I actually wanted. So I've been doing this, and I've had this tendency to like to to be offered something and I'll take it because I can do it. Like, oh, can you teach English? Well, I can. Do I really want to? Is that no? But for whatever reason, I've fallen into roles in my life where I've said yes because I could. And yeah, it's this. I've been looking at this recently because it's been repeating itself in my past, and that helps me to map out where and how I've fallen out of alignment. And that is maybe a part of a people pleasing tendency or a security thing. But over the past year, oh my gosh, I can confidently say that things that were just blatantly unaligned for me have been burned away. And maybe it feels those words come to me now because we're currently experiencing a full moon in Aries, and that's kind of what it's all about. And, with this release, things being burned away, there comes grief as well, right? Like, but also this vulnerability because something familiar has been stripped away. And now, once that like familiar, even though it's familiar, it's like a fog and it clouds your vision. And then that's lifted, and all of a sudden, you're exposed. It feels like you're on display, or like it's vulnerable. But that's when things start to become clear. And that's when you can start to recognize your patterns and dots become connected. And then we have this free will to choose what to do next. And it's like transformation is inevitable at this point. And so now, instead of taking any opportunity that presents itself, I start by asking, what do I truly want? And this is something that I haven't always been able to do or to ask myself, or I would answer, but it wasn't fully the truth. And maybe I even believed that it was. And I take it like, if you're listening to this, you're someone who would also like to live in alignment with their true selves. And I feel like a past version of myself knew that this was important, but I also attempted to do things to make other people feel comfortable with my choice. And I would always slightly compromise to try to make everybody else happy or comfortable. And I never could do that, like, because that was never my job. That was never my responsibility. And so I was just like constantly failing. And so in the past, I would ask that question, what do I want? And I could never come up with a truly honest answer. And now I can. Now I can ask myself that question and I can feel the difference. And even when it's like, I ask myself that question and part of me is like, you can't want that. But anyway, so as I ask myself the question, what do I truly want from this place? From this place of the fog being lifted, things being burned away, I can answer. And even though I answer, and the answer fills my whole being. And maybe that is part of like, do what lights you up. But like lights you up from the inside, like a light has been turned on and then that light fills your entire body, not just how it looks on the outside. You can do things that you don't really want to do and look like you're being lit up by doing them, but from the inside, being lit up from the inside feels different. And on the one hand, it feels comforting to have this knowing. And on the other hand, it feels very, very vulnerable because there's a part of me or a part of my mind that tries to whisper in and be like, well, that might not be possible. You're starting a little late. Others have more experience than you. You don't really know anything. Who are you to want that? Who are you to deserve that? And here's the thing. My understanding is that intrusive thoughts and self-sabotage are a protective mechanism, maybe produced by the ego to soften the fall if we fail, quote unquote fail. Or maybe these thoughts and emotions aren't really us at all, but they are just passing through, looking for a comfortable place to settle. What I do know is not everything we think is true. For our whole lives, we have decided what's true. Everything is made up. Things have value because we decided they have value. And then we found others who believe the same thing. You can look at how beauty standards have changed every like 10 years or whatever, or less than that. And from place to place, right? Like there's no truth. That's not like in that sense. So instead of tightening and bracing and restricting the flow of energy towards what we want and who we are, maybe we can just soften and we can just accept it. Even without doing anything, maybe we can just sit with an idea, however vulnerable it might feel. How does it feel to sit with an idea that you have previously decided wasn't true for you? I invite you to try that. Maybe go for a walk, sit down in nature, take a few breaths. Maybe just first allow your body to be soft. So physically, just taking some breaths, softening your belly, and take in your surroundings. And just at first, just notice what comes up. Notice if you receive thoughts of like, this is stupid, what are you doing? Or, we have better things to do. And then just let those go by. And then notice how you feel. And it might take some practice, honestly, holding space for yourself. It's not necessarily easy. And I guess what I'm saying in all of this is just don't be afraid to burn it down and start again. Because you won't actually be starting again. You've learned along the way. You're not starting from zero. You're not like nowhere, right? But one thing I've learned is that I don't want my human mind making all of my important decisions. I want to be guided by my intuition and my connection to source and the life force energy. And I want to help others create the same thing for themselves, if that's what they want. And the next thing that just comes up is, well, what's required of me? And for right now, that is a slowness, a softness, a forgiveness. It's integrating new insights, cultivating and nurturing this reconnection. And like I said, I've not been doing this work alone. I have help, and I'm so grateful that I listened to my intuitive nudges this past year just simple things like you should text this person. And because that opened up different opportunities for me this year. And this just feels important to share because if you are someone who values authenticity, integrity, living in alignment with yourself, with truth, I mean, if you're still listening at this point, I feel like you are. So I just want to reiterate that, those those um, those little nudges, those gut feelings, they mean something. And yes, there are big moments and big breakthroughs, but we have a lot of opportunities for connection throughout the day. Just by listening to those seemingly little nudges or gut feelings can open up a whole world of changes if we are brave enough to listen. If you would like some support with this, you can reach out to me. We can talk about, a mentorship that might be right for you, but also feel free to explore this on your own a little bit, see how it feels for you in your body, see, what is possible. Honestly, for me, I don't think the work that I had, well, no, I know for sure that this whole process of reconnection, I've had guidance along the way, whether it be just the process of surfing, the connection, the reconnection with nature, the the intuitive counseling sessions that I've done and continue to do, reconnecting with the plants, doing my first dieta in 2022, going back this year, helping to support others, reconnecting with the plants, learning about how I interpret intuition, how, what it feels like for me, because it feels different for everybody. And having support along the way has been so helpful. So I encourage you to, find a community or a mentor, whether that's me or somebody else who can be there with you through this process, because it's life-changing, it's affirming, it's valuable, it's comforting, but it's also hard and it's vulnerable. And for today, I want to leave you with this prayer or poem that I wrote. I don't know, maybe what's the difference. And feel free to use it if it resonates with you. It's called May. May fear get quieter and love get louder. May intuition speak clearly, and may we have the courage to listen. May gratitude keep us grounded and dreams keep us awake to possibility. That's all I have for you today. So I will talk to you soon. And until next time, buenas olas.